Viewer discretion advised.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Glad to have you here. It's your host, Steve Stockton, aka 13 Past Midnight. We're starting just a little late today, but hey, as they say, better late than never. Just had some extenuating circumstances all the way around, but we are here. I was telling Miss Stereo before the show, it's the morning horde rush for people that don't get up until the afternoon. So happy first day of fall, everybody. Let me give some shout outs in the chat here. Let's see who we got. Got a bunch of people with us this morning. A bunch of people of other countries represented here. First, I want to shout out Evil Witch Sure, new friend of mine from Twitter. She's going to be my guest real soon. We have Marit Madsen all the way from France. Bonjour. Unicorp's Tales, Tanya from the UK. Glad to have you with us this morning, Tanya. Let's see who else we've got. Going through the chat here, scrolling through real quick. Of course, got Creepy Clown Girl, Mia Mina, lovely mods, two of the best mods in the business. Glad you could be here with us this morning, ladies. A mod for the channel, keep everybody in line. Be sure and smack Nightbot around if he needs it. And let's see, Journey Through the Gate, the Paranormal Portal Podcast is in the chat. Sysco Murdock, my co-author, partner in crime, co-conspirator. She's going to be my guest just a little bit later. Let's see if there's anybody else that I missed here. I saw a couple coming in just as I went here. Well, there's Nightbot. Miscast Entertainment in here from to beat up. Mike Hughes, glad to have you with us this morning, sir. Welcome. Okay, before we get rolling here with our guest, I heard that in celebration of autumn, that there are some new designs available in the Dezombified merch store. Let's see if we can get those on the screen here. Okay, wait for it to pop up on my screen. Now, this is the kids' hoodies we're going to be looking at here. This is new. I know a lot of you have small ones. Well, here's what to dress them in for the small fall season. The small fall season. Yeah, born ready. And got, on the front there, and then the baby zombie on the back looks like maybe he's wearing a gas mask. That is awesome. That's what send your kids to school in that, and make everyone think twice. Won't get picked on if they're wearing that because they're born ready. Whatever life throws their way. But yeah, that's in the kids' sizes. Perfect for the chilly fall weather that started this morning. I think like flipping a switch. It's already been a little cool and rainy, but here in downtown Portland, Oregon today, it's like 50 degrees and rainy. So. Now that's available in all colors, boys and girls, whoever, doesn't matter. You can get a blue hoodie for your daughter, pink hoodie for your son. It's all cool here. We represent every color of the rainbow. No judgment, no hate. It's all good. Wear whatever you want to wear. These are awesome. That's just new in the Teesprings merch store, in addition to the other fine mugs, t-shirts, and other things that are available there. Really proud of those. Wanted to let you guys know about those right off the bat because I know people have been waiting on the kids stuff. So that's brilliant. I know she's got some little ones there, then maybe she'll dress them in that to send them to school there in the UK. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and bring my guest on. Like I mentioned earlier, Sysco Murdock is an author, a soldier, a paranormal investigator, a light worker, an empath, an artist. She's a little bit of everything, and she's also my co-conspirator. We wrote a book together. We are children. We're all children in the. I blew the title. It's a mouthful.
Every single time.
I got it right the other day. Anyway, here's Sysco Murdock. Come on in, Sysco. I'll let you say the title. We are all children in the wilderness of the afterlife, a haunted tour through a guided life. That's a mouthful, though, even for me. I like to talk.
I love you anyway. You know that.
Yeah, the last few times you weren't here and I got it right. So it figures the one time I've got here and I'm introducing you, I get it wrong. It's actually her book of her stories. I just went along behind and contributed, did like a color commentary after each chapter. It's what she wanted me to do. I'd never co-written or worked like that before, but it turned out really great. It's available on Amazon Kindle, coming soon in paperback. We've got the manuscript with the editor right now going through the final tweaks and shifts and whatever needs to be done to it, but it's going to be here soon, hopefully by the first week of October.
Yep,
wherever books are sold, you can get it from the library, from the bookstore, or on Amazon.
Yep, or Amazon Kindle. It's a print on demand, which is nice.
Yeah,
so,
right on.
Right there. So,
well, Sysco, how are you doing today? Is it fall yet in New Jersey?
Off and on, the mornings are cool and the nights are cool. I mean, we're going through what's now called, I don't know if it's, how real it is, but we always call it Indian stuff. And it's a good time on the Jersey Shore because now people are free and all the visitors are gone home and it's kind of like our school. It's really nice place together by the shore. The leaves are just starting to turn and it's really nice. And as far as my house goes, it's Halloween already, so.
Oh yeah, that's a given here too. It's been Halloween since last Halloween and the one before that because I just leave my Halloween stuff up all the time.
It's all decorated up, almost all of it's already.
But love the new background they've got for us here on the morning show. The fall leaves there. That's perfect.
That's a little bit about what my yard looks like right about now. Not quite as thick, but it's starting like that.
And I miss that when I lived back east. I'd go to the mountains and see them. Out here, there's a little bit of fall color, but it's most of the trees here are evergreens. And in fact, just across the river in Washington State, that's known as the Evergreen State. So not a lot of fall color here, but more so than when I was in Vegas, where there was no color, basically gray or brown or. Take your pick. You can't tell one season from another in the desert, really.
Yeah.
It's hotter, not quite as hot. That's the seasons out there.
Can you guys hear me out there? I'm getting the word in the chat. You can't hear. Can you hear?
They're saying you're a little quiet. If you can.
I've never heard that. I've never been told that in my life.
That's a all-faced lie. I'm here to tell you, Sysco is not quiet.
No.
We had all kinds of records for talking. Then lengthwise, not necessarily volume. The first time we ever talked, Soraya Ascath, WBBR FM in Ithaca, New York, has a great show, Where Did the Road Go? And he kind of put us together. Sysco called me one Sunday afternoon. We talked for about 6 hours or so, just right off the bat. It was like,
yeah. Well, see, the thing is Steve and I found out that we had an awful lot of overlapping things. Like we're both from Native American descent. We both are very much nature people, out in the woods, trying to, not so much survival in the woods, but respect of the woods and nature, animals, and folklore and legends, and keeping the old traditions, stories alive. And in the Cherokee, I'm Cherokee and Lenape, and storytelling is a very coveted position, and it's looked on as a high regard within most any really tribe would, whether it's here or in another country, because that's the way traditions are passed on, and that's the way, all that storytelling. So we had a lot of that in common, and we just clicked from the very beginning. And we both have open minds about things. We both found out that we're not, even though we've both been in this probably 45, 50 years, a piece, that we're still sitting there going, I don't know. There's no experts really, because everything is theory. And there's some things that you can lean, honestly lean a little bit more to the positive than the negative. Just throw your legs over that fence. But, you know, still sit here and go, there's no experts, because it's just, in the paranormal and supernatural, it seems like the bullseye is always moving. And just when you think you've got it figured out, something else happens to maybe make you rethink that. So we kind of got along in that way. Don't you agree, Steve?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Sarai also gave us the puzzle analogy where anything you're trying to unravel in the paranormal, it's like you're trying to find out where the puzzle pieces fit, but you don't have a box to look at the picture and see what the puzzle is, and then you find out there's actually 4 or 5 puzzles dumped in there together.
Right. And you don't have the cover to the box. You don't have the cover to the box. So even if you get it all together, you don't know if you got it right. So, and that's the whole reason. I mean, it's funny. I named the book "We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife: A Guided Tour to a Haunted Life." So what do I mean by that? A lot of people ask me, are we children when we get? No, that's not what I mean. I mean that it's almost the last frontier. We can guess all we want, if you're lucky enough to have people that communicate with the dead, or can speak to earthbound spirits or something along those lines. You're going to get little pieces, but we don't know for sure what it's like. And everybody wants to know that, whether you've lost a loved one or you're just, inquisitive about, your own life and what's on the other side. So that's what I mean. It's the innocence of the not knowing. No matter how much we think we know, there's just no proof to tell you, okay, you got it right, that one's correct. And we won't know till we get there. And then it seems like the ones that have gotten there, that we are lucky enough to hear from, won't tell you. Not because they know.
Oh, and I think in a lot of cases, that's the fun of it, is in the hunt, is in the chase, not finding the answers, but just looking for them is the actual reward. And if you had the answers, then that would kind of ruin everything to me. And in a lot of cases, I don't really think there are any hard and fast answers. And also, if somebody comes to me and says, oh, well, I'm an expert in the paranormal, that flags my BS detector right there. I don't think there are any experts, because there's no way any one person can know everything about any one aspect of the paranormal.
Right. And I think most of the people that I talk to, most of the people that I've been friends, and I know a lot of people in this, I mean, just between Steve and I and everything, we've reached out in so many different directions. And I think it's wonderful. That's wonderful about this subject, the paranormal, supernatural, and and that includes everything. It's cryptids, Bigfoot, vampires, you name it, okay? Everything. When you are in a group of people like that, it's one of the most loving, connected groups. And since I've been doing the podcast, I've reached out to a lot of people. We have people all around the world, to the point of, like, if somebody calls me with something and they want an answer to a question, and I don't know it, or I don't have any idea, or I have an idea and I say, you might want to get another opinion, here's somebody, you can contact them. It's like, a chain of help. And I think it's a wonderful thing.
I think that's the typical Jersey girl in you there. I got a guy for that. I know a guy.
Fell off the truck, you can have this, and I got a guy. I know a guy. But that's true.
It is. And you do. I mean, I've come to you with just things that most people would think was so outlandish, and probably think I need to have my head examiner or be locked up. And Six was like, I know a guy. Let me get in touch with this person.
Yep.
And then, that person gets in touch with the person that I was trying to get help for, and boom, there you go.
And handled it too, man.
Oh yeah. So
we ought to tell them a little piece of that story now that we brought that up, because I think that is one of the most, I don't want to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say miraculous things. I mean, that's the thing about this subject. You know, for people who don't know me, if I may, just take a second and just tell you a little bit about me. I love. I don't care how dark this subject can get, and it does. Oh, honey, if good exists, evil exists, and you know, I've the more evil that I've met is been just regular human beings do to each other. But I assure you, there are things on the other side that are much worse. But I like to try to bring some light back to it. So, you know, help people through things and try to, you know, try to straighten things out, calm things down a little bit, try to figure out what's going on. But it never ceases to amaze me the absolute miracles that happen that the you just can't even wrap your mind around it. This one day, I'm gonna start it, Steve. This one day, Steve calls me. This is a
Okay.
typical Steve and Cisco call. Steve calls me, sis. I'm like, yeah, Steve. I've been having these dreams, and I'm like, oh man, here we go. I said, hang on, let me get a cigarette and a bottle of water. So we sit down, and he's telling me now. Steve has some fantastic dreams, and I won't get into all that, but he'll have premonition dreams, things that actually happen, you know. And I'm thinking it's going to be one of those. And it starts out to be something completely different. And I'm listening to him. And as he's unfolding his actual energy over the phone, you know, the vibration that's coming through his words and his voice and his own frequency, if you know, whatever you want to call it, his energy, I'm getting pictures and I'm getting, you know, answers and pieces of parts, and it was absolutely amazing, and one of the first thoughts that went through my head as he was talking turned out to be one of the answers from days later. Do you wanna tell a little piece of that, Steve? I just
Yeah, I think, and this is like she said, sometimes I have dreams that happen to come true. And probably the most jarring and most upsetting things about that are when I see things that are disastrous and I don't get enough in the dream to warn anybody. Or one of the most frightening examples I had, just falling asleep one night, and all of a sudden I was on a construction site. I saw a little pyramid of concrete drainage pipes break loose, roll over a guy, and just absolutely smash him into the ground. And I woke up, just kind of startled myself awake. And I thought, that was just so vivid and so real and so gory. And I saw everything. And I knew it was somewhere in the South because I could see the red clay mud there. If you're from the South or ever been in the South, you know what I'm talking about. Everything is shale and red clay. And I just thought, where was it? Because there was no, it could be any construction site anywhere in the southeastern United States, basically, and maybe even somewhere overseas if they have red clay over there. And then just not 2 weeks later, I heard about the very same accident had occurred in Kingsport, where Sean Graham is originally from. Stack of pipes, the banding snapped, the pipes collapsed and rolled over a guy and killed him, just like I'd seen. And that really, upset me because I didn't know where it was. I didn't have any way to warn anybody, or don't go to work today or stay away from piles of concrete pipes or whatever. But I think if anything, it just reinforced that sometimes, even if you know what's going to happen, you can't change it. What's going to happen is going to happen. You can maybe influence it a little bit here and there, but some things are just going to be. And this particular dream that Sysco's talking about, I'd had it 3 times on 3 separate occasions. And my grandmother, the gypsy witch that I like to talk about, she had always told me that if you dream something at least 3 times, you need to pay attention to it. That's trying to tell you something. So, and I'd call Sysco up. I was all excited. I just dreamed this for the 3rd time. I call her. I'm like, Sysco, I need your help. And she's like, what's going on? What's going on? I said, I think I know where there's a body.
Yep.
Now, how'd you like to get that call? It wasn't help me hide a body, although she's probably got a guy for that too.
I got a guy.
It was, I think I know where there's a body. And in this dream, I was walking along this, it was an old paved road, but it was not used anymore. You could tell the pavement was all broken up and cracked, and there were weeds growing up through the cracks. And I'm walking along, and suddenly I come out of the woodsy area, and I can see off to my right there's a river down below, And on the other side of the river, there's like an abandoned school and a factory that I can see off in the distance, and then some hills beyond that. Don't really know where it was. Again, it had that southern feeling, the school and the factory had this giant smokestack, if you will, and everything was made out of red brick. And I'm thinking, well, that's probably in the South, and probably from the 1800s. Red brick was popular building material in certain areas of the South because they could make it right there. In fact, that's probably what the factory was that I was dreaming. There was a brick foundry. But as I'm taking all this in, again, it's one of those dreams, and I know because everything is just, it's almost like a lucid dream because everything is so vivid and so clear, and the sights and the smells and everything. So I'm walking along, I'm looking down at the river, and I look down kind of over the bank. It's maybe 8-10 feet drop down to the shores there of the river, which you can tell it flooded at one time, tell where the high water mark was. Well, they're partially sticking out of the sand, or not the sand, but the loam, the shale and the dirt there by the river is a motorcycle. And it's just the front part of it. I can see a little tip of the seat and the gas tank and the front wheel and the handlebars and the headlight. If you've ever seen the cover of the Meatloaf album, Bat Out of Hell, that's the position the motorcycle was in, except it was bursting out of the ground like that. And I thought, oh man, I bet somebody stole that motorcycle and threw it over the bank. I'm going to, see if I can salvage this. It's a real nice orange and white looking bike. And about that time, I'm kind of looking around to see if anybody's watching me. And to the left, up on the top of the bank where I'm at, there was a cedar tree there, a big old cedar tree with the limbs really heavy, hanging low. And I kind of looked up under there and I could see a pair of boots. And I thought, oh, there's somebody here. So I kind of walk under the branch of the tree, and here is a body of what I'm presuming to be the rider of said motorcycle, or what's left of him. Boots, ripped up jeans tucked into the boots. He's wearing like a leather jacket with a denim vest over it, and he's like skeletal remains at this point, even though there is still some, I don't even know if it was flesh on the bones. They were kind of mossy and kind of gross looking. And I just, every time I've dreamed this every time, and it would be progressively worse. The motorcycle would be a little more covered up, and the guy would be a little more in disarray. I guess animals were picking at him and stuff. So now I'll let you take over again, Sysco, while I catch my breath. Real quick, though, I want to say hi to Banshiba, Nerdy Blurb TV, that came into the chat. Thank you for having us with us.
Welcome to the chat. You came in at a good time. It's a good
And got Puerto Rican showcasing. Hola, Jose.
Hey, Puerto Rican. I like to say hi to Mama Mina as well, too, and Banshiba. Hi, everybody in the chat. So here's the thing. He calls me up and he gets through this progression, and the thing that got me was what he just said. Each time he had the dream, the body would be a little more decomposed, and the bike would be a little more covered. It would always start the same thing, and he'd be very aware of where he was. And when I have these dreams, it's the same for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people listening that have had dreams like this. And you know where you are, and you continue through with your thoughts as well as picking up everything around you. Now, the thing that got me too is the corpse started speaking to Steve. When Steve is talking to me on the phone, and when he speaks to me, I tell him to give it to me in every detail he can imagine, take me there. And as he's telling me this, I'm getting the energy from the dead person as well, which I would call the earthbound spirit, because I'm guessing he's earthbound, he's in his death state, he's not crossed. That's what I mean by that. So I'm listening to both of them kind of at the same time, and Steve is telling me that the corpse is telling him, you've got to let my family know where I am. You've got to let my family know. You've got to let my mother know. And he said something very, very profound at that point to him about, I have made her worry enough. I've worried her enough. I want her to know where I am. And as Steve's telling me this, I'm getting my own guides, or whatever you want to call them, telling me stuff at the same time. It has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with this, and this. And I felt very strongly that this guy was just basically a, somehow attached to Steve's energy. Steve was willing to accept and listen, and this guy was trying to basically come to grips with his own death and whatever was next. And if you deal with any earthbound spirits, that's usually it. You've got to find out what they're agitated about, what's holding them there, whether it's themselves or something else, and then why did they choose not to cross? Because you have to understand it's also free will. Just like it's our free will, it's their free will. That doesn't change. So I'm listening to all this, and Steve and I, just basically to appease and get something to do, we start searching like crazy. Describe the bike to me. We start describing the bike because Steve was so intent on finding the location of the body to try to let the family know, to at least find out what year is this, what's going on. There's so many questions. So we start very intently, and when I say that, I mean it. I mean, for days we're Googling, we're searching missing bikes, the type of bike, trying to figure out what kind of bike it is, because it was orange and cream. I've got friends helping search it out, trying to figure out what year. We're looking for abandoned ghost towns, like a factory that had been flooded because there was ideas that maybe floods through there. So there's a lot going on here. We're talking days of research. And then finally, I said, next time you get him in a dream, I said, you will see him again, Steve. Next time you get him in a dream, you need to get him to talk to you, because the guy really, the voice was like outside of your head, in your head, but the corpse wasn't moving.
Yeah, the skeletal remains there. The skull wasn't moving its jaw like in the movies or anything.
Right.
The voice seemed to come from behind me over my left shoulder while I was looking under the tree. I didn't go back under the limbs after the first time. I would just kind of peek under there and could see the guy was just getting a little worse and a little worse. And there was almost a sarcasm there sometimes in the voice. It'd be like, hey, I'm just hanging out here feeding the birds. And I thought about that, it's because the birds are like picking what's left of the flesh off his bones and stuff, because the bones are looking really bony at this time.
I love the fact because, I have a lot of friends who are bikers. They're actually quite a few wonderful people that are 1%ers. I know quite a few of them. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the typical persona. He's kept up his tough guy, he's putting that tough guy front, but he's really scared. There's a lot of vulnerability in there too. So I was dealing with that on my own, trying with Steve. It was basically me and Steve both working with this guy, but Steve could only see him in his dreams. I could hear him a little bit. So this went on, and finally Steve had another dream, and we got some more information, and the guy was like, well, you're back, but you're not, you haven't done anything yet. I'm still here feeding the birds, man. You got to let people know where I am. And then you got that whole thing is like, you can't call the cops and say, I think there's a body over here. I have a lot of psychic medium friends who do have to go through that kind of thing. And they've sat in, getting questioned for 8-9 hours because where a body is, you got something to do with it, I mean, it's a tough thing to have this information and not be able to help. So we're trying to find a way. So finally on the next call, we're going through everything, and we kind of narrowed down the type of motorcycle and couldn't find one that was missing or a driver that had been missing. So I said, okay, Steve, I think it's time that you just hand it over to me. I need your permission. Do you give this to me? And I'm going to set to the next step. And he gave me that permission. And that's something that's very important about energy. You have to have permission to do so. And I said, okay, I'm going to give it to my guide. I hung up the phone. And I promise you, my hand is up. You can't see it. My hand is up. I had Scout's honor. Okay. My phone went off and I had a message as soon as I hung up. And I said, I'm giving it to them. What's my next step? And I just gave it to the flow, And my message went off. And it was a friend of mine. And she says, hey, there's this psychic fair. I think it's your friend. I don't know if you're going. You want to go if you're not. And I said, sure, when it's tomorrow. I said, who's going to be there? As soon as she gave me the list of who was going to be there, I'm like, that's where I'm supposed to be. So fast forward, I go and I walk in, and usually you have to have appointments and all that. And the lady asked me, who do you want to see? I said, who's open? And she runs down the list to who's open, and she tells me the first one that's open. I said, that's the one. Sign me up. And I go sit down in front of her, and she's a friend and acquaintance. She knows me. I know her very well. And she says, "Guy, how you doing, man? What's going on? It's so funny to see you here. I had a feeling you were going to be here today." And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's different, you know." So like laughing, big hugs and everything. She goes, "Well, what you got going on, girlie? What do you want to talk about?" I said, "Well, I'm not here for me. I said, I'm here for somebody else." And I gave her, Steve's first name. I said, "I have permission to share his energy with you." And she said, "Okay, I'm picking it up." She goes, "Oh, wow." And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And she says, "Okay." She goes, "Let me think." And she closes her eyes and she puts her hand on top of my hand. And I said, "Tell me, girl, what do we do?" She looks at me and she just looks at me real quick. She closes her eyes again. She opens them wide up. She goes, "Well, first off, quit looking for the orange and cream motorcycle." It has nothing to do with the motorcycle. And I just laughed. And she told me what to do and what the issue was with the person who had died. She said, "We're going to have to work on this one. We're going to need more than one person doing this. And he's not going to talk to anybody but Steve. So this is what we're going to do." So basically, what happened was myself, Darcy, the lady I just talked about, and another one that I called who lived in a whole nother state, who was a remote viewer as well as a medium and an angel card reader. And I called her and told her what was going on. We all picked the time that Steve was going to sleep. And Steve had talked to his spirit guides and everything else. And we all worked in combined energy with this one gentleman that we had never met, total stranger. And finally, after time, I think it was 3 nights, Darcy actually went in and through Steve while Steve was standing there. He's asking me, and I said, "Just go get his mom." His mom had been dead. He did was on the other side, and we had to go get his mother to come over and tell her son that it was okay to leave. And Steve didn't know any of this was going on. And he calls me up the next morning and says, "I think he's all right because I saw him walking down that road with a little old lady in a blue dress." And Steve had no idea we were doing this. And there it was. He was walking down the street. He left with his mom and crossed over. Tell me that isn't an awesome story. You know?
It's certainly a wild tale, and I know a lot of the people that we tell it to look at us like, "What are you guys smoking?" But that is the way it happened.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
I want to say hi to a couple people here. Creepy Clown Girl, Ophelia Noctis, 2 more of our wonderful mods, best mods in the business. Hey, ladies, glad to have you with us this morning. And Sean G, Chasing the Truth. I did an awesome show with Sean last Saturday night. That was incredible. We had such a good time.
Hey,
Gonna do
Sean.
it again.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I mean, you're talking 3 people who didn't know each other that came together and concentrated on this and sent energy out and did whatever they do. Everybody had a different talent or ability, whatever you want to call it, to help this young man cross over. And you think, why would people, strangers, all get together to help somebody you never met? Well, if my kid fell in a hole, I'd want somebody to throw him a rope. If I got stuck, and anybody that is in this and been in it a while knows the name Hans Holzer. And Hans Holzer once said, "I've never been afraid for ghosts. They're only people in need of help." And that's how I look at it. And I know Steve looks at it that way too. That's probably why we get along so well. So
yeah, and it was like everybody had a different approach. I mean, me, I'm practical. I'm out looking for a motorcycle and a dead guy. Figured that he'd probably flipped over the bank there, had some kind of accident, had crawled under that tree and passed away. So I'm looking at it from that practical standpoint. I'm Googling, reports of lost bikers. It was a fairly unusual type of motorcycle too. I think it ended up being a Kawasaki from the 70s with that particular color scheme. They only made a few hundred of them. So it wasn't, that common of a bike. And that's something that, you would think that if it was missing, people would notice. Of course, the guy that was missing with it would probably be it's just there were so many twists and turns there.
He was a nomad, and it had absolutely nothing to do with him wanting to be found. He found a way to hook into you to get you to listen. Like you had said, we don't even know if that place even existed. It could have been something that
could have been like a construct, dreamscape almost
exactly,
too.
Exactly.
But because back in my much younger days, I rode a Harley Davidson motorcycle. I wasn't in a motorcycle club, as they like to call them, but I did hang around with some kind of rough characters and was treated as one of their own. They respected you if you respected them and didn't cause any problems. But it was just, one of those things. I don't know why or what was going on or how he was able to reach out to me.
Mhm.
If it was like that, I've never found any place with the circumstances, an abandoned school and a factory with a brick
Mm.
smokestack on the edge of a river that often floods. That's like I said, it could be just about any place.
Well, it's like we were talking about too. It's sometimes movies get it right, or pieces of a movie get it right. As much as funny as the movie Ghost was, there were things in that that I believe are very close to being truth. You know,
Hmm.
there's another one, What Dreams May Come, and had the late Robin Williams in it. And his wife was very depressed. I believe it was a daughter's death, and she had blamed herself. And she had put herself in this very dark place. It was a very black, gothic garden, and she was just sitting by this fountain, weeping constantly. She could not leave there. She had put herself in her own kind of prison, and none of that existed in reality. When he had to go over to the other side, or Unseelie Fae, or Purgatory, or the in between, whatever you want to call it, and go in there and try to get her to remember what love was, and that whole love energy, and to forgive herself, and everything changed. And I think kind of that's what you sort of did for that guy. It might have very well have been the
I think you guys did it. You guys did the heavy lifting. I just kind of the impetus there to get everybody else involved. But there's another part to this story that involves another biker and another part. Do you want to tell that, or do you want to save
oh,
that for another time? Or
I can. Well, actually, I think I told that the last time we were on, because we talked about Eat a Peach and everything. But Dezombified's asking a question about an example of where the movie Ghost got it right. Okay.
okay, go
In
ahead with that.
several different places, I believe that they found the best ways to theatrically portray things that I've seen in real life, or I have learned through others that I've learned to trust, if that makes sense. Such as the Patrick Swayze, after he passed, was trying very hard to get near his loved one. He was being held to her not only by his own love, but by her grief. Now, you have to understand, I don't mean that when you're grieving, you're holding back a loved one, but kind of, sort of, because why? Because they care, and they care as much about you in death as they do in life. And of course, they want to help, and they're drawn to it, and it's an emotion, and you're grieving and you're sad. That's why I often say, if you're missing somebody and their song comes on, sing along with it. Remember a happy time, laugh, dance. You lift your own spirit, you also lift theirs, if that makes sense. That was one thing. The second thing was how hard he had to calm himself down to try to learn how to move something. If you remember in that movie, he had to go find the guy in the subway, because the man in the subway could hit things and make them move, or kick a can and make it move, and he couldn't do that because he was trying so hard. He had to calm himself down and try to learn how to use the energy he had to move an object. And that was portrayed in that movie as how hard he tried to move that penny up a wall to prove to her that he was there. Um, that's another thing that I always try to tell people when, they're calling in the show, or we're talking about it, or talking amongst others, that if you're in your kitchen and a cup goes flying through the kitchen, it doesn't mean you have an evil spirit. That might be the only thing that they can do. A regular, human ghost who's agitated or trying to get your attention, um, can do, with their energy. That might be the only thing they've learned to do. And once usually they learn to do something like knocking on a wall, or opening a cabinet and banging it, something like that. That was another thing I think it got right. And to tell you the truth, I really think they got it right about being evil and having the shadows come and take you away. Do I really think shadows come and take you away? No, but I've known people who have had near death experience that weren't such nice people that came back and said they didn't see a white light. They were surrounded by some pretty horrific things, and they were stuck there, and were what they considered to be very hellish. Let's put it that way. And until they reached out for help and asked for help, they were stuck. And I've heard that too. I mean, a lot of times you hear near death experiences. I saw the light and I went across and it was beautiful, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And I absolutely believe that. But I've also known people who were either very, either had a what I call a crack in their windshield, like a heavy addiction, like whether it be alcohol or drugs or just a bad person, abusive to loved ones or whatever, and had that, and came back changed, completely changed, a complete 180. They said that they weren't going to live that way anymore. They were going to fix it now. And if you're going to believe one, you might as well believe the other. That's just me. So that's, in some ways, that's why I think ghosts got it right. And I think I know a couple of mediums that were an awful lot like Whoopi Goldberg was in that movie too, where people jumping in and out and people standing around and all talking at once, and it can get a little crazy. That's kind of like it was for me when I was a kid. So in that case, they got it right too. And honestly, another movie that got it right, if you like Abbott and Costello, I highly recommend the movie The Time of Their Lives. And that was done back in 1943, I believe. And doggone it if that movie didn't get it right. So it's amazing. It just seemed to be very realistic in the paranormal supernatural stuff I've come to believe and understand as much as I can.
It
So
is. And you wouldn't think of finding enlightenment of any sort in an Abbott and Costello movie. I mean, it's slapstick comedy. It is what it is, but there it is. Whoever wrote that script
yes.
sort of knew what they were talking about from a paranormal perspective.
Yeah, it's like an Abbott and Costello does The Others. It was very, if you watch The Others, it was like their version of The Other. It was amazing the way they did that. And it sounds funny. I'll go on the battlefield in Gettysburg or here in Revolutionary War. I live all around me in New Jersey's Revolutionary War battlefields. There's battlefields everywhere you're standing. I guarantee you. Over time, there's been a battle. But to stand there on a field and you've got every kind of paranormal supernatural thing happening within of 25-foot radius around you, or larger, because you've got the residual haunting, you've got those kind of hauntings that are just somehow a stamp in time that's just replaying like a recording on a tape, and somehow when all the elements are just right, it replays back, like the Phantom Regiment in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And then you've got soldiers that are stuck in their death state. What do I mean by death state? Well, they're reliving how they died, and they feel like they did when they died, and they're reliving that pain and that horror and that anguish and those moments, and they're reliving it over and over like it's in a loop. They can't get out of it. It was so much all at once in their mind, they just can't get off of that. It's like being on a hamster wheel. You just can't get off. And they don't know. All you got to do is jump to the left or jump to the right, or think in your mind, to get off, because you're just stuck there. And it's an amazing thing to watch someone go in there that can connect into that and take that confused, agitated spirit and make them realize and calm them down. It's like therapy, until the point of letting them know you don't have to stay here. You're welcome to leave. You do not have to repeat this. And I'll tell you something else, and this is probably one of the scariest things that I ever really realized, and when I really learned it and I saw things around me that proved to me that it was true, is there are entities, and I mean, this is kind of going to sound really wacko, but can you imagine? But there are entities there that feed on that, and they don't want them to leave. They're feeding on the anguish and the pain and the horror of the whole thing, and they do not want them to be released because it's food to them.
Hmm.
So if those entities are there, you can imagine a battlefield like that is like a banquet to them. And when you come in and you try to interrupt that, now you have to battle them. Now, if you don't think that's scary, come out on a battlefield at midnight with me one night, and we'll see what you think.
No, absolutely. And like in Fort Oglethorpe there in Georgia, the big battlefield there, that's one of the strangest places I've ever been. There's a creature that they see there, particularly around the tower there on near Snodgrass Hill, and the monster, they call it Old Green Eyes because it shows up with these green glowing eyes. But there were reports of it being seen during the war while the battles were going on. It was seen like drifting among the dead and dying. So whatever that is, for whatever reason, it was drawn there, and it's still there, apparently. And it just makes you wonder.
I know you know which one I'm talking about when I tell this. There's a gentleman, and I heard an interview. In fact, I heard 3 different interviews with the same gentleman by different interviewers over a span of time, and his story never changed. And he was, oh gosh, what was he out there doing? I can't remember what he was doing. I think he was fishing with his brothers, and he was an older man. He was middle-aged at the time, and I could get that. I could have that part wrong. But he was out there, and he was going back to the truck by himself to get something. And he's walking down this gravel path out there. And as he's walking down the gravel path, he sees something coming towards him up the road. And as it gets closer, he is just overwashed with this feeling of dread and fear and fight or flight kind of feeling. I mean, he said the adrenaline just went through him, and he didn't know what to do. And as it got closer, he was kind of froze to one spot. And he said it took everything he had not to just, something clicked in his head where he said, if you just put your head down and walk toward the truck, whoever this guy is won't even notice you. And he started to be able to move, and he kept trying to get toward the truck. And when this guy went past him, it's what he called Old Green Eyes. He said the face on it had nothing to do with human or ever was. He said he didn't want to say it had fangs, but it did. And the eyes were green. He said there was the green. It wasn't he had green eyes. Where the eyes would be was like a green light. And it said it acknowledged him and kind of nodded its head and just stared at him as he walked by. And he just pushed forward, and as he got to the truck, he turned around, and it wasn't there anymore. And he said that thing sent shiver down his spine. And many of the people in that town have said they had seen the very same thing. And this wasn't a man given to that kind of stuff. For him to stand up in that town and say what he said and still have to live there, it took an awful lot for him to come forward with that. So that's pretty creepy. But yes, there are things that, anybody that knows anything about this will tell you that, a lot of, listen, it doesn't just have to be an entity that was never human. There are human spirits that absolutely get energy off of you when they come and scare you. There's a famous story. One of the people that I interviewed on one of my episodes was Mark Nesbitt from Gettysburg. Wonderful, wonderful episode. If anybody's interested in Gettysburg ghosts, look that up on my podcast. But Mark Nesbitt is a wealth of information, and he's very much into paranormal criminal investigation, which basically they communicate with spirits that were killed or were involved in a crime, and they tell them where evidence might be, and they use modern science to, cold cases and stuff. It's very interesting. But he told me a story about this gentleman who was staying at a motel. And one night while he was there, it was in Gettysburg, and it was a bed and breakfast. And one of the generals that was famous, sorry, I forgot his name right now, that was famous for the Battle of Gettysburg. There were so many there. He woke up in his bed about 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was just this head hovering above him and just kind of laughing. And he's screaming. just scared to death, can't move. He's screaming, and finally it just backed off and went into the wall and disappeared. And about an hour later, he hears screaming coming from down the hall, and he said, "I wanted to run down the hall, see if anybody needed help, but he was so scared from before, he just stayed right where he was." And he was supposed to stay there a couple more days, and he said that was it for him. And he got up early in the morning, went down to the to the manager at the desk, and said he was going to be checking out. And the manager asked him, "Are you okay? Is everything all right with the room?" And he said, "Well, there's a lot of screaming last night, and some of it was coming from me. And I saw this ghost and who came at me." And he said, he described it a little bit. He goes, "Hang on a minute, describe that again." And he did. And the said, "Hold on 1 minute." We went and got a picture and brought it to him. And sure enough, he goes, "Was this the guy?" He said, "Yeah." And that had been the general that used to that stayed in that house, and he was killed in the Battle of Gettysburg. Now, the interesting part of that is, if that's not good enough, the gentleman that was screaming after, that woke the guy up again, was having a little coffee at the table not far away. And he said, "Go over there and talk to that man and see what he saw." Well, he saw the very same thing. But when the ghost appeared to him an hour later, he was almost a complete full body apparition. And Mark had concluded that basically the spirit had gotten so much energy from the man's fear, he was able to use that energy to then manifest in a fuller apparition to this guy. So
Makes sense.
how cool is that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And Sean and I were talking about this Saturday night on his show. To me, there's something much more frightening about a partial apparition. I've seen full body. I've never seen a partial like some of the ones I've heard about. But the ones that are scariest to me, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but like around Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, where Floyd Collins was trapped and died inside the cave, they've seen a pair of legs, men's legs, wearing either jeans or overalls and boots, running down the hill, but just the legs from like the knees down.
Mm-hmm.
That would scare the daylights out of me. I'd rather see a full body apparition run down the hill and disappear.
Absolutely.
There's a murder site in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at a motel where the night clerk was murdered and stuffed into one of the rooms. They've seen female legs thought to be hers come out of one of the rooms there and run around the water fountain feature there in the courtyard, and while disembodied screams are heard. But just something about that partial apparition. I could even handle a head, I think, but I don't want to see feet or legs. Isn't that weird?
I know, that's creepy. I've had heads come flying at me, so I can tell you that's pretty scary.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
Red Eyes, Red Ribbon. That's a really interesting story. And somewhere, do you think that house still stands in Jersey?
No, it doesn't. And
No.
much to my and I mean, no. And when I came back out of the army to find out in New Jersey, that was one of the first things I looked to see, because when I was, what Steve is talking about, when I was a young girl, and I'll say it real fast, that I lived in a haunted farmhouse, and the farmhouse was on many acres. It was cornfield, horse corn, so it just went on for acres, and a big, huge barn, and the big ominous cellar, and all that kind of stuff. So there was lots of stuff that went on in the house, but I had the ability at that time as a child to see things that other people couldn't see. And I saw many things in that house. And one of them was the ghost of a Revolutionary War soldier who was very angry and was trying to get attention, much like I described earlier. And because I was so young, I was unable to help him. And we left that house, and I was taken away. Mom and Dad got a divorce. We all split up. And I had always tried to get back there to see if I could help him. And when I finally got to the point where I could do that, the house had been torn down and a development had been put up there. It took everything I had not to go knocking on doors. Go, "Anybody got a ghost in here?"
I'm still wondering if one of those houses, there's not a head that comes out of the closet with red eyes, wearing a red ribbon, and it's tied back here.
I can only hope he passed on.
We're about to run out of time here for today. This goes by so fast. Sysco and I can sit and do this for hours. We'll have to have a marathon sometime. I want to say hey to Leonard Barton. I saw him come in earlier when we were talking there. Thank you for joining us today. Let's go ahead and Tell them where they can find you at, Sysco.
Man, that went so fast. I'm so sorry. We just talked and talked and talked. We had a good time, go on.
We'd already talked for like an hour before the show started doing a sound check. So,
well, see, this is it. You can get Steve and I. Steve is my sometime usual co-host on Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal podcast, and we do these kind of talks. We'll pick up a subject on monsters and we'll talk for a while, and it's great. We interview a lot of great, fantastic people. The whole reason I did the podcast was to talk to some of these fantastic people out there. And that's great. You can get that on just put in the title libsyn.com or get on the Facebook at Gatekeepers. All the links are there. The new book is coming out again. It's got new chapters. It's been revised. That is available right now on Kindle in ebook form, but I highly recommend don't buy that one. Wait till the next one comes out. We're going to keep it just as affordable, and that way you'll have a nice paperback to hold, and it's got new stories in it too, and fantastic cover. We're looking forward to releasing that. And I also do jewelry on Wickedly Wired Wearable Art. I'm a wire sculptor, and I do dream catchers, bohemian dream catchers, like bohemian feathers. So you just come on over and join us anytime, and it's wonderful to talk to y'all. Thank y'all so much for having me on. This is a subject we could talk many times in the future about, and I would love to have y'all come on my show too. So that'd be awesome.
and I want to mention you also have a YouTube channel. You just all those
Yes.
podcasts. She's moved them over from Libsyn. You can listen to them there still, Stitcher, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. But you can also listen to them on YouTube now. You got
Yeah.
them all over there. Don Sharp came in there. Just wanted to say hey to you there. Again, thanks everybody. Sean G saying that he enjoyed the show. Thank you. We had a great time. We'll have to do this again. Like I said, this is just getting warmed up for Sysco and I. We can talk a lot.
I could go all day, baby.
Thanks to everybody for showing up. Happy first day of fall, Sysco.
Yes.
Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Love and light, everybody. Love and light, man. Just try to that's the number one thing. Very good.
Before we go, I do want to mention once again, check out the Teespring merchandise. Got the new baby and kid items in there for your little Z Horde members.
I'm gonna get one for my cat, man.
There you go. Every color of the rainbow. Still have the mighty mugs and the t-shirts with the new Yaman TV design there that you see up in the corner. But before we go out, probably play us out with a Z Horde anthem. I would like to have Kenny Dreadful and Miss Stereo, aka Dezombified, when put together, have them come in and just say hi to everybody. Come on in, folks.
Hey, hi you guys.
Hey Steve and Sysco, how are you?
Good afternoon.
It's great to see you guys. How are you both doing?
Thank you so much
good.
for having me on today. It was an absolute pleasure. I love your chat. I love everybody in the Creepy Clown Girl, everybody, Mia Mina. And I've been talking to them in the chat. These are fantastic people. I love them all. We've all hooked up on our YouTube channels and everything, and it's lovely getting to know everybody. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Oh, it was our pleasure.
Again, I wanted to shout out Evil Witch, sure, real quick. She's a new friend, new to the Z Horde. This is her first time here today. She's going to be a guest coming up. Sorry, go ahead, folks.
Oh, yes. No problem. Yes, absolutely. Welcome to the family, Sherwich. I love that name. I just can't say the whole thing. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Lurkers, newbies. Don't be afraid to say hello. We sure love to hear from you guys. And we are absolutely honored that you chose to spend an hour at our little hole in the wall channel here.
A local nightmare. He's in his house.
Hi, local nightmare. How are you? And just a quick reminder, we're gonna be back tonight. Kenny, Dreadful,
and Miss Stereo, along with the Haunted Side, baby, at 5 p.m.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
That's going to be lots of fun because it's our first paranormal group in a while.
Yeah,
since
Panic Deep Paranormal History, yeah.
So these guys are actual paranormal investigators, and
Just
they're going to take us through the journey, so this is going to be very interesting. We're very happy for that. Steve, Sysco, you guys have put on an amazing conversation piece we must do it again. You know, Sysco, you're always welcome here. Mi casa, tu casa.
Thank you, love. Thank you, love.
All right, thank
No
you so much. It's
problem.
always
We're gonna
a
head
pleasure.
out
And
now, Steve. We're
actually,
gonna
we
head
were
out
getting
now
wound up. This
and
was
let
a
you
warm
close the
room
show.
Enjoy the
drive, so we
first
could
day
have
of
done
fall, everybody.
Mwah.
All right, and just play us out here. Going to play the Z Horde anthem, which something they put together here. It's like a love letter to the Z Horde family. We love everybody here. It's all about trust and support and a mutual understanding, and there's you won't find any hate or judgment here. And these are people that are important to the stream, and everybody's important. You can support through the merchandise. You can donate money if you want. Every penny goes back into making the show better, buying better equipment for the stream. Or you can do just what you're doing. That's coming up, one of the shows, sitting in the chat, talking with everyone. Hit that like button, share, tell your friends about it, subscribe if you're not already. Don't forget tonight, The Haunted Side, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a great show. Again, thank you to my guest, Sysco Murdock. Look for her book on Amazon. Check out her podcast. I'm Steve Stockton, aka 13 Past Midnight. You can find my books on Amazon as well. And then I've got a YouTube channel under the 13 Past Midnight moniker there. All right, folks, everybody stand for the Z Horde anthem. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm out of here. Much love to everyone. Mwah.
This one goes out to all you Dezomba friends, the Z Horde. We want you to know just how much we love you.
Shout out to Ophelia Noctis, creepy clown girl, dark carnival got this. A local nightmare, it's so amazing. Puerto Rican Jose's entertaining. Dark waters, dog man is twisted. Nation 1994, really gifted. Dustin Flemings, stronger than the rock. Hellfire's out here making everything hot. Yeah, Braden 23 of fire is a G. We're kryptonites down, Kitty's family. Now there are times when we all need gore. Danny Martians in the house, never know what's in store. Mandy Mortem is legit and a queen. Gothic Rose enchanting, she's on the scene. 13 past midnight, things that go bump in the night. Gory B, horror addicts are out of sight. Big ups to the late horror show. Emily's Adventures in Horrorland, here we go. And you know we gotta keep them dice rolling. MD Who Entertainment, she's been chosen. Give it up for the evil outcast. Swedish mom is dope, yo, you know she got class. So if you get bad vibes from storytelling, then these monsters in my mind will leave you yelling. You see, we all about hearing stranger stories on the creeps. So sweet, she really got love for me. Penny tails up, narrating for the win. Queenie Tade amazing, but real dark and grim. Dementor centaurs, flickathon, swamp dwellers. Scolded 22, they be our fellas. Anime Atome, time he lives. A fantastic panic, deep paranormal history, great graphics. What's up, Bullis Greedy? I meant CP. I'm gonna guess so bent with nefarious TV. Slumberies, art of morbid. Cap 7, truly salmon. And we can never forget about Karen. 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 Karen.
Okay, folks, just playing it out here. Hope you're all loosened up there after the Z Horde anthem. Just wanted to let you know, if you had one of those Dezombified mugs now while you're toweling yourself off there with sweat, you could be drinking your favorite beverage out of one of these great mugs. Water, a more adult libation, Gatorade, whatever you want. Got some other great hoodies here available now too. Check those out. Got the Zombie Queen for the ladies, and the I can't remember what the other is. It the Undead Outlaws, the Z Horde Outlaws. Undead Outlaws there for the gentleman, featuring a little different artwork there. And again, check out those mugs. If you don't want to drink out of it, put your hamster in it. You put your toothpaste and toothbrush in there. Your flesh-eating plant, like that custom there that they made for Creepy Clown Girl. But support the channel in whatever way you can. It's always appreciated. Dezombified says there in the chat, peace, love, and hair grease, everybody. Y'all have a great day, good night, evening, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. And don't forget, you are loved. Bye, everybody. Oh, Evil Witch, sure, thanks for subscribing.
These